This time on Cherry Picking, we cam out my daily driver and see if it can hop a Coke can. Not quite. Really not quite the oomph we were looking for, but it runs, finally! That's right, welcome back to Cherry Picking. This week, we're finally fixing my 1966 Ford Country Sedan station wagon. And we're going to fix it by putting a big old cam in it. Now, if this is your first time on the channel, thanks for watching, I hope you stick around. A few months ago, I decided it was going to be a smart thing to take my totally running, driving, and reliable daily driver station wagon and put a cam in it. For no other reason than I just wanted to. And I was bored and had nothing else to do, which is the epitome of car guy stuff. Now, I was in the middle of like 30 other projects, but hey, I wanted to cam and I wanted to cam out my daily driver. And so what I did is put a C60Z-B Cobra Jet cam, that's right, a factory Ford Cobra Jet cam, or at least what I thought was a Cobra Jet cam, and slap it in this thing that was a totally good driver right before, and then turn it into a completely dead project. Because what happened is the car didn't run right. And I went through weeks and weeks of fixing and adjusting and redoing a bunch of stuff, and ended up tearing down the entire thing again, repainting everything, putting a different intake on it to discover that that intake didn't seal and got water in my oil, broke in the cam like 2 or 3 times in a nightmare, rebuilt a full set of heads with used parts, and used a used cam with new lifters, all to test whether or not you could run an old cam with new lifters. And so far nothing's broken, but also so far this thing hasn't ran more than 30 minutes. Now, the reason everything went wrong is for a couple of different reasons, and it's not what you may think. The cam in this thing was fine, and it seems to be fine, and in fact we'll find out today whether or not it was destroyed and whether or not the lifters were hurt at all. Now, I don't think they were, but what I do know did happen is that the cam that I thought I put in this thing, a C60Z-B Ford Cobra Jet factory 1968-69 camshaft, that has a slight bit of boost over the factory C6AZA cam that was in this thing, and it turned out that it ran like crap. It wouldn't stay running. This thing wouldn't idle under 2,000 RPM, and it would rev just fine, but it couldn't idle. And, well, that's a problem when you have a driver that you need to idle, especially with an automatic and power brakes. So, what I ended up doing was tearing down this motor 2 or 3 times, taking the front accessories all back off again, and then degreeing the camshaft, just to find out that the camshaft that I thought I put in it is not the camshaft that's in it. Now, if this still has the markings of the camshaft that I assume is in it, the C60Z-B cam, it's been reground by someone else. Now, the old cam came from an old race car driver, so we have no idea if it's been messed with or not. And at this point, all the signs are pointing towards it's been reground. It has the stock lift for a Cobra Jet cam, but has way more duration and way more timing and way more advance, and all of the lobes are way wider, and it almost seems like it's set up for solid lifters, which I did not put in this thing. It also was, I believe, advanced 3 degrees. It could have been retarded 3 degrees, but I think it was advanced 3 degrees from where it was supposed to be, and I didn't have an adjustable timing set, so it wasn't running right in the first place, and it ran even worse at low RPM, like what happens when you run it. I don't remember if it's advanced or it doesn't really matter. It's not in there right, and today we're going to fix that by putting a big old cam in it. Now, the cam that's in it has measurements that are eerily similar to a C4AE-B 427 solid lifter cam. It has basically the same duration at 324 degrees. Now, that's not at 50, that's 0 to 0, because that's how Ford did it back in the day. But it basically has an old school 427 cam in it, which is not what I want, and it's really not streetable for an automatic power brake car. That is, at the time, a really hefty cam, even for the 427, which had more than 10.5 to 1 compression, and I'm running at 9.5 to 1 compression because this is not the original 66 Z-code motor that should have 10.5 to 1. It doesn't. It's a 69 2-barrel motor, and so all of that being said, it ran like crap, and we're going to fix it. I think I already said that. But how are we going to fix it? Well, after my whole dilemma and debacle over the last few videos, my uncle up North California decided he'd be real kind and send me some cams. He had 2 in his cam pile. He's actually a big Cougar guy as well as a big Pantera guy, and the 2 that he had was another C6OZ-B cam, Cobra Jet cam, which is exactly what I thought I put in this thing. Only problem is, that cam has a lot of rust and pitting on it, like to the point where I don't think it's worth even trying to use, because even though all the pitting is underneath the surface of the lobe, Any amount of stress on the cam I think is going to break little bits off because it's pretty bad. It's basically unusable. So he also sent me one other cam, and that other cam is a lot hotter than what I'm expecting originally to put in this car. Let me show you. The cam we're gonna put in this thing is this guy right here. Now this is in the exact same factory Ford service replacement tube that the old C6OZB cam was in, and it's even marked C6OZ-B, as you can see there. But the cam that's in here is not one. Let's pull it out. It is in fact a much bigger, a much beefier, and more importantly, it's a solid lifter cam. This is a factory Ford C3AZ-D cam. Now if you don't know what the D cam is, it's basically a Hypo 390 or 406 cam, as well as a 428 Police Interceptor cam from 1966. This was a 1 year only cam for the 428 Police Interceptor because it was the last year for solid lifters in a Police Interceptor and the first year for a 428. So this cam was used in police cars, meaning it should be, theoretically, just enough lope, just enough oomph for a stock 390 to still have power brakes and an automatic, which I currently have. Because the police cars had automatics and power brakes. It was kind of a standardized thing by that point for most people. Now, not everyone did. A part of the police package, I believe, was automatic, and I think power brakes was standard for police cars, but you can double check me and fact check me in the comments. Feel free to do that. Hype the video while you're at it, you know, just cuz. But anyways, this cam, much bigger than the C6OZ-B cam I was intending to put in, which was originally made for GT390s and then the Cobra Jets. This cam has the stamping on it of upside down A, B, whereas the B cam has an upside down A, B, X, which we will find out once we take this thing out if I just screwed up putting it in and didn't realize that it was actually one of these cams or a 427 cam. But this cam actually has quite a bit less duration than the 427 cam. This cam sits at 306 degrees of total duration, even on both sides, intake and exhaust. I will put up all of the intake and exhaust events here, but just remember, Ford didn't measure these events at 50 the way that modern cams are. They did them starting at 0 tappet lift as well as also at a 1/10 of tappet lift. So their measurements, that's why there's 2 of each. The first is at 0, the second is at 1/10 of tappet lift. So if you see the specs there and you go back to one of my older videos and see the specs, or just Google up on the internet the specs of a factory Cobra Jet cam, you'll see that this has quite a bit more because the Cobra Jet cam duration is a 270, 290, while this is a 306. But the cam that's currently in it is at 324. So I would call this a middle ground. But the only other thing with this cam is that it is for sure a solid lifter cam, meaning I cannot run the new hydraulic lifters that I broke into the old cam that's inside the car now. We've got to run a new set of lifters. Let me show you the lifters we got. Now the lifters that we got for this whole shebang, well, they came from the same place that the other lifters came from, and they're a very old set of Engel dumbbell solid lifters. Now, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, Engel, Angel, I don't know. But these are a very old set of lifters. They are part number 558, and they're just ridden solid 390 Ford. I'm assuming they were written on probably in the 70s when these came from. I believe this is 70s. It could be 80s. Who knows? I don't know. Part number doesn't exist anymore. But what I do know is that I believe these are factory-style dumbbell lifters similar to those used in the 406 cars, which they're a little bit lighter weight than a full solid lifter, but they're not as dramatic as a hollow lifter. These should provide good oiling, supposedly, to my crankshaft, and they are brand new. There's full 16 of them in here. They came from the parts slot that I bought basically, 6 months ago now, and not all of them are in the greatest shape. I did find one with a little bit of surface rust on the side, so we're gonna just lightly scrape it off with some steel wool, make sure it spins in the bores. Now, unfortunately, as much as I would love to not take the intake and everything else back off the top of this motor again, because I have to replace the lifters, and I don't really feel like fishing out all of the old lifters and somehow magically fishing these back in through the tiny ports on the intake, I'm just going to have to suck it up and waste another set of intake gaskets and take the intake back off this thing. We spent a lot of time in the last few videos cleaning up this motor. We rebuilt heads, kind of. Basically, we relapped them and cleaned them up. Painted everything, put new exhaust gaskets back on, put new intake gaskets on for like the 3rd time, and we're going to tear it all apart again, unfortunately. But that's enough being said. Let's actually get to it, because I want to get this done ASAP, because I need this car driving. It's been 3 months since I started this project, And this car's been sitting here dead for 3 months in my garage, which has been a real hamper on working on projects like the 67 Highboy project that you've seen in the past few videos. But also, I need to get my Mustang in here and fix that car. So anyways, let's swap these cams and put a big old solid lifter cam in my daily driver. Let's get some work done. Now, the beauty of doing all this again for the 4th time is that I'm starting to get really fast at this. And if you watch the past few videos, you would have seen that we actually already put adjustable rockers on this thing, because when I rebuilt these D2 TEAA heads that are factory hardened seat heads, kind of, they're induction hardened, so not really like traditional hardened seats. But my valve geometry was not flat across like it's supposed to be on an FE. So I had to run adjustable rockers, which I had to go find a set, and I just so happened to have a set of push rods from parts that I acquired from Motor Trend Studios when they closed down. Thanks again, Mason. And I got a whole bunch of push rods, and it just so happened that I had the right 3/8 ball cup and ball push rods that are meant for factory Ford adjustable rockers. And the cool part is, I get to do this all over again. Did I mention that? Well, time lapse, let's tear it apart. Oh, great. Definitely just accidentally dumped a little bit straight into the oil pan down there. Isn't it fun how you do that? Now these lifters are probably perfectly good, so I'm probably going to save them. Now obviously they've been worn in with a cam, but you know, if I got another old motor that just has some messed up lifters that I just need to get back running, you know, not a high dollar build, just if I just need to get something running, we'll just throw them in, it'll be fine. Anyways, well, get the lifters out and get the cam out, and we're back to square one. All the lifters are coming out nice and easy, but this is cylinder 5, the first lifter. I don't remember, I think it's exhaust. The exhaust lifter, I don't know if you can see it there. There's a little bit of a wear ring around it, so that one might have a slightly worn bore or something. Not sure, but it's not bad enough. I mean, it's only been running for 30 minutes-ish, but these lifters have been through a lot, so I won't rag on them too hard. All right, it is the moment of truth. Am I stupid, or was I right? Oh boy. It's going to be one of those needs help situations. Need to pry it out ever so slightly. Ah! Aha! Ow. I'm not crazy, folks. I'm not crazy. Something is up with this cam. This is an upside down A, B, X cam. I don't know if you can see that right there. ABX. This is in fact cast as a Cobra Jet cam. So the question is, why is it not a Cobra Jet? And wow, the pitting on this actually looks like it got worse. But it didn't wipe any lobes, and we broke this in multiple times, including once with coolant inside the motor. But it doesn't look great. But now's the time I get to compare this with the other C60ZB Cobra Jet cam that my uncle sent me to see if the lobes are noticeably different. And I can tell you right now, they already look different. They're way bigger on this one. I don't know the deals of where this cam came from or why it is what it is. Like I said, it came from an old racer, so who knows where it's been, what it's done, what it was built for. A lot of people in the FE groups theorize that maybe it was specifically built for a class of racing that had to have stock lift, but other parameters were okay. I don't know. What I do know is, to me, it's useless because it's unknown, and it's not worth running an unknown cam and trying to degree it in. And honestly, it Might be a good one to get reground back to stock specs, but for now, it goes in the box of go away. Okay, so it's the next morning, and I went ahead and spent the morning cleaning up our gasket surfaces, and we are now ready to slap the cam in, I believe. I've got the whole front timing cover area cleaned up all right, and I've got all the gasket surfaces for the intake cleaned up, and then I got the intake and the timing cover cleaned up. So, it's nothing more to do and just slapping this guy in. Now, what I'm going to do different than I did last time is instead of waiting to try to fire the motor up to see if I have this cam correct, I am going to put it in, put the lifters in, and degree this cam before I put the intake on. Now, at this point in time, it'd be a really good time to do my AC unit because I can get to all of the bolts back there, but that's not going to happen. So, for now, let's put this cam in. Now, I did check over this cam. I did not mic it, but I did look at everything, and it looks to be fine. I've got this old Comp Cams lube. I actually don't even know if this is Molly lube. No, it's not. This is a pretty good cam. It's actually in better shape than the cam we put in this thing initially, especially since I, rusted up the other one on accident just a little. This one's not bad at all, actually. It's in pretty good shape, so it should be pretty good. The lifters are old lifters, so, everything should be better than what we put in it. Hopefully. We're gonna get this on here. This stuff is nasty, so we gotta be careful. But we'll go ahead and put this thing in. I take my time and go nice and slow. There we go. All right, there we go. Now we're just back to square one. Man, this stuff is nasty. Well, now the fun part. We're gonna degree this cam in, which is a whole bunch of slow going process of, well, I'll show you. Okay, and to degree the cam, first thing we need to do is put our timing chain on. Our crank is set at top dead center, and I already verified that, from doing this about 7 times. So, or actually wait, I don't think it's at top dead center. I think it's, well, it's at top dead center, but it's 180 out. Doesn't really matter. Point is, we need to put our timing gear in alignment on the chain, which is right there. That also means that the cam needs to spin around to straight up and down. Slide this guy on. Yeah, my timing chain has a little bit of slop. I may try this with the other one to see if it's any better. That. So this one is an old Isky degree wheel. It's probably not the best. It's a really small wheel, but it does do the job. So we're gonna get this guy on here. All right, now I just zapped mine on there so that I could keep it straight because I do know that top dead center, I just checked it, is when this crank shaft is directly straight up and down. And to make sure that stays marked, we're gonna go ahead and throw in this makeshift timing pointer. All right, now I've got it pointing at 0, and basically what I'm going to do is drop all the lifters in here, put the drain plug back in so we can catch some of the oil. We're going to drop all the lifters in, and then we're going to slowly go back and forth measuring the lifter height. Probably should do this with the push rod, but I'm going to start with just trying it with the lifters first, just to see how that goes. And I have been soaking these lifters in oil, even though it's probably not necessary since they're, solid, but it'll get them lubed up. And we're going to make sure these rotate nice and free in here. I had 2 that had a little bit of surface rust on the upper edges of them, and so definitely want to keep an eye out for those. This is actually, I think, one of them. But I went ahead and cleaned these up this morning. They had been sitting for a long time. Well, it feels like it spins free. Yeah, that spins nice and free. Now, I've heard some conflicting information on whether or not you should be restricting oil galleries for these. And even though potentially you might want to, I'm not going to. Because that's too much time and work, and we're trying to get this thing done. Plus, I've heard from a ton of people that it does not matter and they will be fine. So, you know. And the last one, they all slid in really nice, so I'm going to go ahead and check those, make sure they all spin over by hand nice and easily. Because if they don't spin over, you got a problem. And we don't want a problem, so anyways, I'll be back and we'll degree this camshaft. Okay, so I just spent the last few minutes trying to degree this cam out, and it actually is working pretty well. It's definitely not perfect, but I'm getting the numbers I'm supposed to be getting. Basically, this cam is supposed to have intake opening and closing, and this is at 1/10 of tappet lift, and at 1/10 of tappet lift. The opening for the intake is supposed to be at 14 degrees after top center and 30 degrees after bottom center, and that's what I got here. That's the readings I got, at least. Or I'm sorry, not 30 degrees after bottom center, 29 degrees after bottom center. So 14 after top, 29 after bottom. For the exhaust, it's supposed to be 33 before bottom center and 18 before top center, and that's also the readings I was getting on the exhaust side. So this cam looks good, and it looks like I can run it straight up. It's not a few degrees advanced or retarded, so yeah, should be good to go. So now I get to throw this whole thing back together. We're going to slap the intake back on, make sure I don't forget to lift the valley pan, the lifter valley pan, because, you know, you kind of need that to keep hot oil off the intake crossover. And then we'll put the front timing, we'll just put everything on, you know. I do know I have to fix at least one of the rockers on the adjustable rocker stand, because one of the nuts for the rockers is a little bit too loose for my liking. So what we're gonna do is I have another set. I'm gonna steal a good rocker off that one that's nice and tight and slip it on this one and call it good. So let's throw everything back together. Alright, so it's been a few hours, and we are finally back and ready to fire up this motor. I've got everything bolted on, the top end, the accessories, everything is back together as if nothing ever happened. This has been basically 3 months in the making, from what was supposed to be a 1-week job turned into a 3-month job. But anyways, we're ready to fire this thing up, well, almost. We got the spark plugs in and tightened down. I still need to fill it with coolant and hook up the spark plug wires. That's it. And then we got to time it once we get it running. Fingers crossed, people, because I have been dreading over this. I basically re-degreed the cam like 6 times, and I did find that I actually did have an adjustable timing set that let me actually adjust it to where I wanted to, because the timing set that was on the motor, one, was a lot more worn out than I thought, which is kind of ridiculous. I mean, it may not be stretched any more than it could have, like it might have been fully stretched out, but it was a double roller timing set that was, my memory basically knew when I put it in, and that's only been 3 years now. So anyways, I had another timing set that actually was only 8 degrees advanced to retarded for some reason, and then I just happened to find in all the parts that I bought from that big parts haul back in December. Turns out 2 of the timing sets I thought were for small blocks are actually FE timing sets, and they let me go 2, 4, 6, and 8 degrees advanced and retarded. So I went ahead and put it up at 4 degrees advanced, because when I was degreeing the cam, it basically was coming back with the center line and the lobe separation angle. The lobe separation angle was about 114, 115. It should be 114. I could have messed up the degree totally, possibly. But we wanted the center line to be closer to like 110 instead of, I think where it was at before was like 106 or maybe more. I don't remember. Honestly, I don't remember at this point. I'm not a cam expert, as you can tell. But I basically put it where I think it should run, plus it's a little bit advanced so that it should idle a little bit better. Because as a reminder, this is a big old cam, at least big by 1966 standards. This cam was used in 428 police interceptors, 406s, and from some of my reading, the same specs were also used on the 427 4-barrel cars. So it's a little big, and you might be saying, oh, that's not big at all. And no, by today's standards, it's not. And there were bigger cams even then. But for a total street application with a 4,600-pound automatic power brake 390 that has 9.5 to 1 compression, this is pretty big for it, and antiquated when it comes to the actual cam events. So anyways, let me slap these spark plug wires, let's fill it with coolant, and for the love of God, let's start it, and fingers crossed it runs just fine. Alright, well this is the moment of truth. My nerves are getting to me. I haven't felt this nervous since the first time I did this. Now, technically I'm supposed to break in this cam with these lifters since they're also new. So I'm going to try to do that as long as it runs fine, because we'll know pretty fast if it doesn't. Anyways, we're ready to go, so I guess there's nothing to do but fire it. Ooh, almost forgot this. That would have been a big vacuum leak. Ooh. This is the moment of truth. Contact. Starts up. Ooh. There's our oil pressure. By the way, I forgot to mention, I did a compression test and we were hitting 110, 120 on at least 2 of the cylinders. I didn't do the rest. Anyways. Ooh. It didn't like that. It was running, but it didn't like it. It's also really rich. And oiling is not a problem, at least not up here. This is stressful, folks. Still not running great. Although, time, I don't know what it's timed at. That could be why. Literally forgot. Probably the most important thing is I have no idea what this is set at. I stabbed the distributor in. It should be close. I don't know where. Unhook that. How am I going to do this? Are we dripping oil out of the this side yet? Not yet, but it sure is close. Yeah. Yeah, it should be close enough to run. Actually, that's right at 12. So that should be enough. Oh boy, and we're filling with oil over here. That actually seems like it's timed correctly. So, here's what we're gonna do. I did notice quite a bit of smoke coming from one side. I don't know what that's about. Eh, should be nothing. Okay, so it's the next morning, and we have actually broken this thing in already. We finished breaking it in. We started last night, ran it for about 10-15 minutes, and then I had to shut it off. It was kind of smoking out the house, so, you know, we ended up pulling the car outside, and this morning I went ahead and finished running it. And I finished running it for about 20 minutes or so, and, well, everything looks good so far. I don't have coolant in my oil. It runs, it idles, it probably needs a little bit of tuning. I did tune it just a little bit, but it's definitely not perfect. But what I need to do right now is actually relash the valves now that it's been running for a while and worn in. We lashed them cold and at about 23... Yeah, we lashed it at 23 thousandths because that is 2 thousandths tighter than the stock what's called for, which is 25 thousandths. So right now we're going to actually open up, pop the valve covers off, get it to 25 thousandths, and then put it all back together see if it runs any different. Well, take it for a test drive, I guess. Wow, it is hot under here. It's already hot. It's now noon, or somewhere around noon. And everything, like I said, I ran this. Oh, it is all still very hot. I might have to wait longer to do this. I did also have an exhaust gasket blowout, so I got to replace the exhaust gasket on the driver's side, which is, of course, kind of a nightmare because everything's in the way. But it's also very loud, so I want to replace it. Now, it is hot under here. Go ahead and just start on the passenger side since it's, you know, the easiest one to get to. Oh boy, everything's hot. Probably should, oh my gosh, probably should let it cool down. Oh my gosh, woo! Yeah, those are actually too hot to touch. Probably should let everything cool down. At least a little bit more. Oh boy. Yeah, inside of this looks good. Okay, just finished up lashing all of the valves to 25 thousandths, and they were all pretty close. There were a few that I had to adjust a little bit tighter or a little bit looser, but I would say nothing like way out of spec, maybe 1 or 2 thousandths, if that. So really not bad. So now we're just gonna go ahead and throw the valve covers back on and take this thing for a drive. Oh, I do need to fix the exhaust gasket. I may not do that right now. That might be better to do when it's actually cold, because it's still about 190,000 degrees. I also just went ahead and checked one of our spark plugs just to see where it was at, really, and what it looks like we're lean, which is not super surprising. We're definitely rich at idle. At least I think we are. I'm pretty sure we are, because we get smoke at idle, like black smoke, especially when it's cold. However, in the power band, when we're actually cruising the car, I think it's running lean. The jets are probably a little bit too small. This is a stock Cobra Jet Holley carb, so it's not really meant for big cams without some tuning. So we probably need to tune on this carb some more, probably put some bigger jets in it. I think it's got 76s in the fronts, which is even a little bit small. I think stock, or no, it's got 67s in the front and 76s in the rear. It probably would like more like a 69 and a 79 or something similar to that. I don't know. We're gonna have to play with it in the future. For now, it's back together. Valve covers are back on, and well, it's time to take it for a drive. Well, it starts up fine. You can really hear that exhaust leak ticking out. It's on, I believe, number 6, just blowing directly out the side. So we're gonna have to fix that once it's cooler out. All right, driving the 66 country sedan after months of dealing with this cam swap debacle. All right, it's got some get up and go. I will say it does feel a little bit more sluggish than before, just at the low end, which is not super surprising. This cam is definitely meant for a little bit higher RPM range. And it doesn't help that I have 3.0 gears and a stock C6 with a stock torque converter. That definitely does not help it. But if I drop it down to second gear, we're going about 40 right now. It gets up and goes. It's got pretty good torque up high. Now, I will say I have been missing driving this thing like crazy. Like, I have not missed a vehicle this much in a while. The Mustang I definitely miss driving, but this thing is, yeah, see, definitely not great at the low RPM, but higher RPM and floor it. She gets up there and goes. Probably hard to tell over the camera, but she definitely gets up there, guys. God, this thing is great. Now, I will say, I have actually already driven this thing just a little bit because I had some things go on and happen in my life, and I had to actually drive this thing. So this thing never got like a proper break-in, some would say. And to be completely honest, I've probably already put like at least 1,000 miles on it. which is horrible for video's sake. Because it's supposed to be, you know, raw, fresh experience. That's what you want. But that's not how life works. So I have about 1,000 miles on this thing, and it's pretty good. Like I said, it's definitely not as peppy on the low end. The torque in the low end is definitely missing. It is what it is. High end definitely gets up in boogies. Getting on the freeway, it goes, which is very nice. But, well, other thing, gas. Definitely much worse on gas. I have noticed it's a little bit worse. Probably at least 4 or 5 miles per gallon less than it was getting before. It would help if I didn't floor it all the time, but how could you not when you got a big cam in this mother? You know what I'm saying? You got to floor it. So probably would use a little bit less gas. And then it probably needs to be tuned a little bit more. I did lash all the valves, but it probably needs a little bit of a tuning. Carburetor needs some jets, and honestly, 3.0 gears is not helping this thing or doing it any favors. I think in the future, I think what would be fun to do to this thing is 1, 4-speed or 5-speed swap it, or 2, which could also go with the 4-speed, put a gear vendor's overdrive. That I think would really change the driving dynamics of this car, give me that overdrive that it desperately needs, so that I could put a taller gear in it, or a shorter gear, whichever way it's supposed to go. Because from a stop sign, it's a little bit slow, and then once it picks up and I got to get off on it because that was already 50. So, you know, it just takes a business day or two to get there. No big deal, nothing unusual. It's a 4,600 pound wagon. What more could I ask for, really? To be honest, it also needs another point of compression because it currently only has 9.5 to 1 compression rated from Ford instead of the original 10.5 to 1 like it should have. And also not having a little bit of that extra stroke in cubic inches from a 428, which this cam is supposed to be from. You know, all of these things combined, it could be better. But I will say that at this point, I'm just happy it works. We're thankful for the things we got, folks, not the things we want, right? So, yeah, I guess that's the end of this series. Well, let's take it to stationary Aaron, who's not driving and has to pay attention to the rules of the road. Now, I am just ecstatic that this thing is back on the road because it has been months, 4 months to be exact, that this thing has been driving because we had a cam in it, took the cam out of it, put a new cam in it, went back and forth, had 4 or 5 intake drops, multiple timing cover gaskets, just a whole bunch of stuff. So I'm just so happy to finally have this thing back and driving. And I will say that I've actually already driven this thing quite a bit since fixing it. The time between me actually breaking this thing and the driving segment has actually been a few weeks actually, because I had a lot of things happen literally the day after I got this thing running and I had to drive it. And so I didn't really have time to break it in, but I broke it in by driving it. And then I went and took it on a 300+ mile road trip all the way out to Dana Point, up to Malibu and back home, and it did phenomenally. Now, I will say this thing does not have the low end grunt it used to have. The torque on the low end kind of gone, and it does produce terrible vacuum now, because this cam is just way too big for this car. But I don't care, because it's a whole lot of fun. And now that my baby is running and driving again, what should we do next? Lift kit? I don't know. But when we do it, you'll see it here on Cherry Pickin'. So thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video series or this video at all, please let me know. Leave me a like, comment, subscribe if you want to see more content like this, because we got a whole bunch more coming. I appreciate each and one of you that watches my videos, so thank you so much for watching. And I will see you next time. And remember, keep on picking. Would you look at it? Just the prettiest thing.